Welcome to Let's Write This Movie, where we write a screenplay
while sharing the process with the internet.
I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I'm your collaborator, Brian Glass.
Now, let's write this movie. You're sounding better, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to me again.
How's
Tough week.
How's things? How's the company?
The company. Oh, the company in that way. Good.
Good.
Yeah, we're having a good time. We're kind of in the middle of our visit. Well, yeah, about the middle of our visit, so it's going well.
I can just imagine you're in the middle of dinner. Like, oh God, I'll be right back, guys, in an hour or so.
Well, we did plan around the show recording, to be honest.
All right, so how much time we got here, Brian?
We're fine. We're back. We're back from dinner and dessert, and all is good.
No end time.
No end time.
All right.
The end time is not near.
Okay, then. I guess we'll just jump into normal banter then.
Absolutely.
Brian? How was your week?
Pre-banter has now ended. We can now enter normal banter.
You like my hoodie?
I can't really tell. Hold on, let me blow you up a little bit.
Blow me up.
Bam. All right, there you go. Oh yeah, nice. What are those patches on the front though? And what is that? Whoa. You went away.
Am I totally black? Can you
Well, I can see you, but I can barely hear you.
Hello. Whoa.
Like it sounds like you're recording from your computer, like the laptop closed or something.
Well, I'm
You're back. That's weird.
It's got to be this XLR cable, bro. Moving. Oh wait.
Never move it again.
Hello.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. That's weird.
They do tend to go bad.
Okay.
I have one that's already toasted since we started.
Nice.
Yeah. Quality.
Anyway, these little Velcro, or rather, hook and loop patches, Brian. Velcro's brand name. So you got to call them hook and loop. Yeah, these are for ID patches or morale patches for military people.
I see.
Or if you want to have like a name tape right here, you can have your name tape there.
I love how I'm going like this to try and see over the mic.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
No.
That's not how computers work. This is how people type.
Anyway, so I got it today. I've had my eye on this for the longest time, and there was a really low priced extra small on Amazon, and I was like, maybe I'm an extra small. So I got it, and it fits pretty well. So I'm like, yes.
Wow.
Chalk went up for the short guys, the small guys.
Hey, that's all right. Takes all types.
There you go. To what, Brian? Takes all types to what?
So when I was sick, I was blowing my nose in Kleenex. That's not true. It was in tissues.
Facial tissues.
Facial tissues.
There you go.
Sometimes facial tissues.
Oh,
Let's be honest.
that's true.
Let's be honest. Sometimes not facial tissues.
Most of the time not, if we're talking about the same thing.
Sleeves.
Ooh,
Kerchiefs.
there it is.
Well, how was your week, bud?
It was really awful.
I really have to ask because there's no blog post. I'm like, what's happening here?
There's no blog post. Oh, I put it up. 13? 13 is up.
The blog post?
13, right? I just didn't put the video up. I forgot to put the video up. We're doing 14 tonight,
Right.
but 13 is up.
But yeah, you usually talk about your pages. The pages I'm reading right now, there's usually some nice little blog post about the pages.
You're right. That's what I didn't do. Correct.
Yeah.
Because I'm so discombobulated from this week. I don't even know what's going on anymore, Brian.
Do tell.
People should be lucky that there's even a show, that I'm even here talking to you.
I'm lucky.
Well,
It'd be a terrible show without you.
yeah, exactly. I can't go into too much detail because it involves my real life. So
Life.
let me just say that It was a rough week. I pulled basically an all-nighter minus 1 hour to turn in something to get a project done. And then, yeah, and we'll talk about it once we're not recording. But it was really rough, and it just like messed up my sleep schedule, my pattern for the rest of the week.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, I will also comment about it off the air because I don't think my comments right now will be welcome based on how you're holding back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll just say, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. I guess that kind of curtails the rest of the banter if we have to redact everything.
And then you wouldn't believe what...
Exactly. Just black bars filling up the screen slowly until it's just our eyes.
That'd be pretty funny. Can you do that effect?
Well, if I had the time, sure.
Yeah. Who has the time?
No, I'm too busy pulling 23-hour days.
Not cool. Not cool at all. God, not for anything.
All right, Brian.
Yeah.
Shall we? Shall we begin?
Sure. Yeah. You want to go into the read?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's fall in love. So I added, I didn't include old pages because, the changes were, I don't want to say minor, but what's so funny, Brian?
I went like this, with the pages. I hit something on the Mac, and everything went away for a minute.
Oh.
I was like, what did I hit?
Is it back? Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, good. All right. Anyway, so I made... Oops, that's the wrong thing to click. There we are. Made most of the changes that you suggested. A lot of them were minor. Some of them were cosmetic. So it was like 50-50 if I accepted them or not.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Here on 72, we're going to start with... we don't actually have to start in 72. We start in 73. But I included 72 because there's an important scene here that I forgot to include, which is Jimmy and Sarah running to the outpost during this kind of like bugle retreat.
Yeah, let's just start there. Let's start at the bottom of 72.
All right, if you want.
Let me look at something. I did not well, it's good I'm looking at this since I have pages that are upside down after I've edited.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I did not read this out loud, so this should be interesting.
Yeah, this is all you tonight. Mostly you. Like 90% you.
Well, at least I'm not wheezy today. Wheezy.
Oh yeah.
When I think of wheezy, was it Good Times that had wheezy on it? Wheezy.
I have no idea. I don't think I ever watched Good Times.
Oh.
It has Dynamite, right?
J.J. Walker,
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't make any more wheezy references. That was the female, his mom, I believe.
Oh, you know what? It's kind of coming back to me now.
Yeah.
I may have caught like a couple of episodes here and there.
Wasn't it Mr. Jefferson?
I think about the Jeffersons.
I think they went on to a spin-off.
Oh, yeah. Moving on up. Okay. So that's where they came from, huh? They were a spin-off.
Yeah.
Moving on up.
Moving on
to
up
the east side.
To a deluxe apartment in the sky.
Here it is.
All right. I guess I shall begin. Exterior, Epitaph, outpost, continuous. A bugle command to retreat sounds in the air as outpost soldiers run to man the walls of this small wooden outpost. Jimmy and Sarah from the train run to join the soldiers. Exterior, abandoned storefront, continuous. The position has been overrun by the time Stan and Everett arrive. Outpost soldiers retreat, and bodies of townsfolk litter the ground while undead feast on them. Small fires burn where lanterns fell, revealing grisly scenes. Horses have been felled and eaten. Others break free from their hitching posts and run off into the night. While Stan and Everett make sense of what they're seeing, the bodies on the ground rise around them. The men fight their way out.
Everett, we've got to protect the others.
Interior, exterior, Grand Hotel, Everett's room, continuous. Maggie, Ray, and Tommy cower by the windows of their second-story room. They cautiously look outside to see townsfolk die at the hands of infected and undead. A ewe who notices them snaps her head in their direction, sees no one, and runs off. Interior, jail, continuous. Long has clambered up to the cell window to look outside. He's aghast at the carnage. A headbanger lifts his head up from a fresh kill and notices Long. He charges out of view as more headbangers follow his lead. A sound startles Long. Carl has risen, and he smashes his head against the brick.
Carl. Molly! Molly! Molly!
Between each cry, he smashes his face with more intensity, breaking bone and rearranging his face. Long steps down off the bench, drawing Carl's attention.
Carl. Did I say Carl earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank God. Yeah. Carl. You took her!
He charges Long, who sidesteps and lets Carl smash into the wall. His hard head caves in the brick. Carl attacks again, but this time Long drives Carl's head in between the cell bars. Carl struggles to free himself, but can't. Pounding on the jail door draws Long's attention. Interior, Grand Hotel, Everett's room, continuous. A woman knocks frantically on the door.
Frightened woman. Please, let me in, please.
She pauses when she hears a crash.
Hang on a second. I'm sorry. Is my performance terrible tonight? What's going on?
It's just funny.
What's going on, man?
The last please was just so feeble. Please.
You know, it's uncontrollable at that pitch, Brian. You know, it's like...
I hear these things in my head, and I'm always like curious how you're going to perform them. And you typically, like now, exceed my expectations.
Back to the script. Here we go.
She pauses when she hears a crash from downstairs.
Frightened woman. Oh, God, they're inside. Please, let me in, please.
Ray moves towards the door, but Maggie grabs his hand and shakes her head. He nods reassuringly. When he gets to the door, Ray braces it with his shoulder. Unholy screams and growls approach from below.
Frightened woman. Please, they're coming, please.
She tries to...
That's not the reaction that's meant to elicit, Brian. It's meant to elicit sympathy.
She tries to force her way in, but can't. She screams as the growls are at the door. There's a struggle. Then the woman is quiet. Only the sounds of chewing. Then heavy blows nearly take the door off its hinges. Maggie rushes to Ray to help. Tommy cries as Maggie and Ray scream with each heavy blow. The door splinters in the middle. Then gunshots are heard below, drawing the attackers away. More gunshots and bodies fall. After a moment, someone knocks on the door.
Muffled voice. Maggie, are you in there?
Maggie throws the door open to reveal Stan.
Maggie. Stan, thank God. Where's Everett?
Interior, jail, continuous. The door to the jail gives way to three headbangers. They charge in roaring at Long and hurl themselves at the cell. They reach for him through the bars, but can't get him. Long steps back, stunned at their horrible faces. They charge. The old bars groan under the assault, bending cartoonishly and impossibly where the headbangers make contact with their faces. Suddenly, the bars come off their anchor points. Long instinctively steps back to the cell bars. Long instinctively steps back as the cell bars angle toward him. Sensing that they're close to their prey, the headbangers grasp at Long, who bats their arms away but can't stop the shrinking distance between himself and the bars. Finally, one headbanger gets a firm grip on Long's collar and pulls. Long braces as jagged teeth and a broken maw greet him. But 4 gun blasts fill the room, and the 3 headbangers' heads explode, painting the walls with viscera. They fall, revealing Everett. Long is surprised to see them. Everett approaches Carl, who has taken a bullet to the head but is not dead. His thick forehead protected him. Everett takes note of the dead headbanger shot in the back of the head, then shoves his pistol into Carl's mouth and fires. Carl dies. Everett opens the cell door and produces manacles.
Everett, let's go.
Long stares at the manacles and sighs. Exterior, Wells Green Bank, continuous. Prophet's hired guards stand stand outside. Oh, God. Prophet's hired guards stand out front in this quieter area of town. Gunshots and screams in the distance stifle their conversation. Something moves in the shadows. A hired guard looks over his shoulder inside the bank. Interior, Wells Green Bank, continuous. George finishes the combination on the vault, turns the spindle on the door, and pulls it open. Prophet's eyes light up as the silver ore inside catch the light from his lantern.
George, see, Mr. Prophet, it's all there. Prophet, I'll be the judge of that.
He enters the vault. Exterior, Wells Green Bank, continuous. The guards are alert as the chaos in the rest of the town becomes clearer. A guard at the corner is about to speak when a yoo-hoo distracts him. He turns to see a courtesan standing just outside an alley, dotted in green specks. She beckons him, and the guard grins as he slips away after her. After a moment, a guard notices the first is missing. He sees a yoo-hoo beckon him, and he follows her. One by one, the guards disappear until there's just one left with a lantern.
Hired guard number 1. What the hell?
He looks around to find himself alone. He goes to find the others. As he approaches an alley, he can hear groaning, moaning, and the sticky sounds of flesh on flesh. In the dark, the green specks of the yoo-hoo's skin writhe. When the yoo-hoos sense the guard, they stop moving and look in his direction, eyes shining like an animal's. The guard lifts the lantern, revealing the yoo-hoos devouring the other men. They pounce on the last man before he can scream. Interior, Wells Green Bank, continuous. George rubs his forehead impatiently.
George, are you satisfied, Mr. Prophet? I'd like to finish my supper.
Yoo-hoo, cuts him short. A shapely yoo-hoo leans against the doorway. She gives George an alluring look. His mouth falls open and he makes a move toward her, but then another yoo-hoo appears, wrapping her leg around the side of the door jamb. George is mesmerized until another yoo-hoo appears in the window, her dress in tatters. Another yoo-hoo arrives with her face smeared in blood. In the dim light, George can barely make out their bared teeth. They yoo-hoo in unison. Prophet comes out of the vault.
Prophet, what's all this commotion?
The yoo-hoos snap their head to face Prophet. In the light of his lantern, they look evil. George backs into Prophet, who shoves George back. George backs into Prophet, who shoves George into the yoo-hoos before running back into the vault. Pulls on the heavy door behind him to shut it. The yoo-hoos claw and slash at George, who puts up a valiant fight to escape. He breaks free and runs to the vault. Interior, Wells Green Bank, vault, continuous. Prophet desperately pulls on the door and shuts it just in time to see the hope drain from George's face and be replaced by terror. Prophet steps back from the door and listens to George's muted pleas for mercy as he's eaten alive. Exterior, jail, continuous. Long and Everett exit into the street where it's pandemonium. Fires punctuate the scene. Men on horses ride past only to be felled by spitters. Men with guns fight undead and infected, but are driven back. A girl is cornered by undead. She makes eye contact with Everett. He moves to help as the undead fall on her. Long holds him back as the girl screams.
Long, she's a goner. You can't help her.
Everett grimaces and grabs Long's arm, leading him. They sneak into the general goods store. Interior, Potter's General Goods. They stay low, out of sight. A spitter runs up to the window and sniffs. It thumps on the glass with its hand. Everett draws his pistol. Long shoots him a look and shakes his head. After a moment, the spitter runs off. Long and Everett relax.
Long, there were more out there. They would have heard the shot.
After surveying the room, Everett holsters his weapon.
Long, now what, Marshal? Everett, now we wait. When they move on, so do we. Long, and after that? Everett, then we find as many survivors as we can and hole up somewhere safe. Long, and after that? Everett doesn't answer. We have to get out of this town. Everett remains quiet. Marshal! Everett, understand something. You are my prisoner. You will do as I say. I don't know if you've noticed, But horses are in short supply ever since these things got loose. I'm not about to go wandering off into the desert with no horse, no water, and these crazies on my tail. So, we're going to wait. Long. Until when?
Everett pulls out his pocket watch, but looks distracted when he opens the clasp.
Long. Marshal. Everett. The next train arrives at sunrise. That gives us about 6 hours.
He puts his watch away. Frustrated, Long sighs. Moments pass in silence as the men listen to the chaos outside. And then...
Long. Why did you save me? Everett doesn't answer. There are more deserving people. People who count on you to protect them. So why save me? Everett. I didn't save you. Long. It sure feels like it. Everett. If I wanted you dead in any old fashion, I would have shot you in the street when I had the chance. But that wouldn't have been lawful. You violated the law, so the law is going to punish you. In the right way. In a just way. There ain't no justice in being eaten alive. Long. The world is burning to the ground. You think the law still matters?
Before Everett can answer, they hear a sound from the back. Dun, dun, dun.
Dan Brown.
For those of you who can see on my notes,
What does
you
it
read
say?
that from there?
Hang on. Jerk, Dan Browning me again. Yeah, well, I thought it was a good place to end because we're going to transition, move it to another big set piece, so...
Hey, Renee, if you want me to read to you, man, just let me know. You don't have to go writing something for that. Just say, Brian, can you read me a book for like 10 minutes? And I'll do it, man. No, it's not a problem.
Here's a 30-second story, Brian. Maybe even less. So, before the Renee that you first met, which is like a really cynical, sarcastic, sardonic kind of jerk, right? I used to be a big romantic, and stop me if I told you this, Brian, but I was courting a girl. It was a long distance relationship, and I looked for different ways to like maintain any kind of connection with her, and one of those connections was to read to her before she went to bed. And this is how I read through like Kurt Vonnegut books.
Wow.
Because I was reading these like chapters to her. Anyway, so there you go. I know it's kind of pathetic, but
you can't just leave us like that. I mean, was there a payoff there?
No. Well, I mean, yes, sort of, but it all crashed and burned anyway. So, I mean, that is. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, those are the highs and lows of relationships, right?
Hey man, they all crash and burn except for the latest one, right? So, if you have a current one, that's the only one that hasn't crashed and burned. Every other one has.
Yeah. Yeah. I think though, you as a person, like let's take relationships out of the equation. If you are experiencing something and they always, there's a pattern. Yeah. If you have enough data points to say, okay, there is a pattern here.
Yeah.
You can say, well, there's a problem with that category of whatever it is, right?
Okay.
Or you can say, well, what's the common denominator?
Right.
Right? Which is me.
Yeah.
So one of two things is out of sync.
Yeah. Well, I'll argue that one for you.
Thanks, Brian.
In that it was probably them. Because...
I agree. I say that about every single one. It's always them.
Because I think for people who are fairly self-aware, and I would definitely put both of us in that category, feel this way. And I had this conversation with my wife just yesterday. Maybe it was even this morning. I can't even recall. But I said, I've got all these clients that I'm working on a side project with them, and every one of them is just like, it's really difficult to get information out of them, to get traction. They're all great people, but doing business with them is tough.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm very, very well aware that I'm having these problems, and the common denominator in every single one of these is me. And I'm telling you, I'm not the problem. I'm pushing forward on everyone who's trying to draw it out of them, and they're all acting this way. And I'm not being overbearing. I'm just trying to keep things on track.
Yeah.
I'm not the problem. I'm not the problem, Renee.
No, you know what? And I'm with you,
You weren't
Brian.
either.
And maybe this is what every person in denial says, but I think that I'm a pretty logical guy, and I am very open to course correcting on a lot of things, right? Like, especially when it comes to relationships post, or I'm sorry, pre when you first met me, right? Like, I think people are just accustomed to being malleable as far as like their personality and their likes and dislikes, because you want to be as lubricated as possible to mesh with the other person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And so do you even really have like a hard and fast personality at that point? I mean, maybe there's like this skeleton in that, but
Right.
you've heavily coated it in just grease, you know, to like get in there, get it fit, make it fit, you know?
Yeah, I prefer soft tissue than grease, but
Okay, well, whatever. You know what I mean? So anyway, so now I've said, screw all of that. I'm not, forget the grease, forget the soft tissue. I'm just going to be hard
skeleton.
bone, just bone.
You like it or you don't. You
Exactly.
like it or screw you. I love it. I love it.
Well, you know, that's the thing though, Brian. I think, you know, back in the day, 10 years ago, a person with the personality that I had before could get away with that personality, right? Now, I think, just given the way American society is, I think you got to be a little more careful about the things you say, and you actually have to care about other people's feelings.
Ugh,
I know.
so true.
It's rough,
So
bro. It's rough.
we need to start marketing the show just out of country. Where they speak English, but they're not in the same cultural divisiveness that we are.
Yeah. No, hey, that's I'm totally down for that. So once we start shooting that commercial, bro, there'll be
Well, I need you to pick what country we're going to really target, because that's what we have to work on for our accents.
yeah, dude.
I know you're thinking Ireland, but they got a problem though.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But that's for another day. So okay, before we get into your feedback, let us plug everything like we do every week. Okay, and I've got the website up. So everybody listening, watching, this is our website, letswritethismovie.com. This is where, when I am on top of things, I will actually post a blog post that has the new pages. Let's look at what one of these posts looks like. Oh, there we are. Okay, great. So I talk about the week and, what was on my mind as I was writing, any challenges I had or epiphanies. And then I post the week's pages. And you can see it right here in this PDF viewer, and you can read all of the pages. If you have any feedback, questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave it in the comment field down below, and we, Brian and I, will be happy to discuss your feedback in the weekend show. And of course, you can always leave a comment here on YouTube. And I am also active on Twitter at WriteThisMovie. That is my Twitter handle. And we are 1,164 followers. That is pretty good. So I don't tweet a lot. I don't live on social media, but when I tweet, it's, I tweet and try to, have something meaningful, something authentic, not just out there, tweeting just to tweet. So if you decide to engage with me, there's a 100% chance that I will reply and engage with you as well. So please reach out. Always happy to talk to other creatives.
I don't know if that's true, man. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I did install a René bot. Yeah, that it just artificially puts out stuff that you might say.
Die.
Maybe you didn't notice.
I hate you.
Stop watching.
Exactly.
Subscribe. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's it. Everything is fully plugged. Fully plugged, Brian. All right.
Fantastic.
So let's get to your feedback.
Yeah, well, let me just give you the overview first.
Please.
I think we had like 1 week where I could tell your mind was kind of preoccupied by some things that were really annoying you.
Yeah.
And when that's not happening and you've got a very clear direction, we get things like this where, I mean, regardless of the sleep issue that you had and that day of work, I'm not sure where this fit in. But this was like all real solid stuff. So I'm very much in the same camp as last week, where I just have some minor tweaks and questions for you.
Great. I'm happy to hear that. I thought it was pretty solid too. I mean, I even had time, or rather I made time at the end to give it at least one proofread before I sent it over to you. So, you know, I hope that reflected in, you know, the punctuation and grammar and all of that. So let me just add here before we get into the nitty gritty that the one thing I am questionable on is the interaction between, at the end, between Long and Everett. While I do like that these guys are forced to talk to each other, I'm not sure it is authentic. Like, it makes sense, and maybe I'm jumping ahead here, Brian. You want me to wait until we get there?
No, absolutely not. Go talk about it.
So, I mean, it makes sense that Long would ask, why would you save me? Like, there are people dying all around. There was this girl that they just saw outside got eaten alive, and if Everett had not taken the time to save Long, maybe she would be alive because he would have saved her, right? So does this, like, I know why Everett would save Long, because Everett is, and this, it makes sense to me from the way I understand his character. He wants the law to punish Long, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. Okay, yeah, I'm going to make sure he gets out so that he can hang justly. I guess that's the term.
Right.
But would he put that above the citizenry, right? Does that make sense? And if it does that make Everett a bad guy now? So A, there's that. And then B, the other thing I think, it was an easy fix, but one thing I did leave out here is I think Long would want to, like, a natural reaction would be to ask Everett, what's going on? What's happening here? Now, in terms of logic, right? In terms of the movie, since the audience has seen Long see that, hey, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening already, like at the hanging, when the body started to come up or come back to life, he saw that. So maybe he doesn't need to ask, like, you know, get any more clarification on the chaos happening.
Right.
But it did just seem like, well, Long seems to be very, like, okay with this. Just like, oh yeah, let's, a man of action. Let's just start doing stuff, you know?
Another town, another zombie outbreak.
Exactly. Anyway, so those are my two issues that I was just thinking about as I thought about the script.
All right, so let's jump there. Here are my thoughts. I've got three different things kind of working on in my head. First is that when I thought about the reasoning behind him going to get him, is because this outbreak is happening, and for as long as the prisoner is under his jurisdiction, whether he's, standing with him or he's in the jail, he's his responsibility. So I felt like he's going to get him because, hey, this is my responsibility to make sure this guy comes to justice, regardless of what's going on here in the periphery. So I felt it was part of the single-mindedness of the character that, yeah, there are other people in danger as well. And Long probably will be as well. And he wants to make sure that he's brought to justice regardless of anything. And that is his mission basically in life, because he doesn't have necessarily a new relationship that's fully ready to go into. He's got, hints of it and whatnot,
right?
But he still seems very single-minded. So I had no problem with his reasoning, the reasoning behind him doing that at all.
All right.
Secondly, from a story standpoint, I felt like you've got to start the buddy cop thing going on. And this felt like the beginning of it, where Long basically says, tells him not to fire. That was the first indication that these guys are going to have to form an uneasy union. And I like that. I just like there's something in there given what we know of their history, that I felt really intriguing and compelling. You know, these two together is kind of the core of the story. So any excuse we can get to get them together, I'm happy about. You know what I mean? Because I like there's just two strong guys. I want them to be together as much as possible, and at odds with each other. And I know there's a power struggle happening, or a power flip that's going to be coming too, and all this stuff really intrigues me. So I guess strictly from a character / story momentum standpoint, I like the two of them together a lot.
So let me just confess something. As we were reading, and as we got to this point, and I knew it was coming up, I could physically feel being happier. Like, I love these guys together and interacting. You know,
right.
I just want to throw that out there because it was pretty cool. Like, I typically, I live with these characters every day, right? So it's like whatever. But it was the first time I kind of recognized them as like starting to come to life in my meta mind, I guess, like my meta life. Right. So there you are.
Yeah, and I gotta imagine it's a really weird experience to write this stuff down and then have someone read it back to you, basically. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's gotta be really weird. Like, I've never done that. But all right, so let me just comment on what you're saying there as well before I get to my third point, and that is that if you have kind of the high in the story in terms of like, I'm always looking forward to seeing Everett and Long, anything with Everett and Long. Yeah. Maybe under that, I like seeing Stan and
Everett.
No, I'm saying just as a character, Stan interacting with someone.
Yeah.
And then maybe under that, maybe like a Zeke or something like that. It would probably be. Yeah, I guess Zeke, because really Bao's not there, but I like their interaction early on as well, even though it was mostly non-verbal. I liked what was going on there. It was memorable. And then, so if you're going to have something that's kind of the highs, I would say that most everything else falls into the kind of mids, things that are also happening, B stories and whatnot. And then for me, like the one that's the least interesting, if you will, would be, and I have to look at their names because I can't remember, Boone.
Okay, yeah.
What's happening at the vault,
right?
It's
kind
of the least interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of interesting in that it's it's kind of the crux of the origin story of this whole issue. It's the initial setup here, which was cool,
right?
But ultimately, if he lives or dies, I'm like, I'm not as concerned about any of those guys dying. It's just kind of a cool thing to happen.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, we just met him. Yeah. Like a scene before, so who cares if he dies?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Like if it comes to it, I can always add a little bit in the beginning where, maybe the flashback has some dialogue rather than just all voiceover from Zeke when he's talking about, and maybe Boone has kind of like a fatherly, or rather a like a patriarchally. I don't know if patriarchally. Is that a word?
Patriarchalistically.
Ism. With Patrick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I haven't said anything is because I figure by the time you're done with draft 1, we're going to be looking at it from a kind of a different standpoint.
Yeah.
Brian, I'm 15 pages over, or hey, we're right on, but I don't think that's going to happen. Or we're going to feel like, going back, I really think we need more of this or a little bit less of that. And
right.
I figured it all just kind of figure itself out in the wash.
Yeah.
Draft 2. Okay, so kind of in response to the Everett and the Everett Long Sing later, the thing I felt that was missing, this is kind of my biggest note of these pages, is Sam is the one who set the whole thing in motion, essentially, by letting everyone out of the warehouse or whatever it was that was it. I can't remember what it was, but that was last week, man. Who can remember that?
Yeah, the abandoned storefront.
Abandoned storefront.
Yeah.
He set them out, right? And in my head, he was then going to use that as a diversion to go to the cell. So I thought he was going to appear somewhere in the scene with Long and Everett, either in the scene or in the scene but hidden. Like he sees Everett.
Yeah, that can work.
Out of the way.
No, totally.
Yeah. Because otherwise I'm like, well, where's Sam? Because he's he kind of belongs here because this is his quote unquote his plan,
right?
That he came up with.
Yeah.
So
No, you're absolutely right. Here's what I'll do. I mean, that makes complete sense. Even if it's just like a quick shot, like Pandemonium, Sam is like skulking around a corner and he sees the jail or whatever. He sees the, the cell window, and he's like, all right. Right. And then, or maybe, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. I was going to say he sees Everett, but let's scrap that. We can cut to the hotel where we have the mislead of Everett showing up, but it's actually Stan who saves Maggie. And then she's like, where's Everett?
Yeah.
And then we have it play out as we normally did. But as they leave the jail, Sam is there looking around the corner like, oh, he got to Long first.
Right. Yeah, and he's kind of,
maybe he's even talking to Zeke. We can have Zeke and Sally there, too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Plan B.
Something, just to keep it going.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it look like he's not just a victim.
What's Plan B? We improvise.
Like you're doing now.
Exactly.
Can't believe you want to do more Sally lines.
I don't.
That's the only reason she's not getting as much play. Because
exactly. I'm committed to that horrible voice.
And then, we're going to have the Sally VO for the last 5 pages.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. The epilogue.
In the end, it didn't really matter what happened. Oh, man. A Sally story. All right. So shall we dig into the minor things?
Let's do it.
Things? All right. So on the bottom of page 72, when we do have Jimmy and Sarah coming back, this is a reminder, right? That Jimmy and Sarah from the train.
Well, that's the thing. I find that when characters don't play big parts, like they are there for thematic reasons or some kind of like payoff at the end or whatever, like whether it's people or it's an item, I like to help the reader. Like, hey, these people that you don't remember their names, like you don't even know where they're from because this is page, 10 or page 5. Here they are again. They're from the train, so there you go. That's why I do that occasionally.
Yeah. I think it's the first time I saw this, and I felt like, this has got to be a reminder for the reader at this point.
Totally.
So I don't know if you want to put them in a parenthetical, like from the train.
No, I don't like doing that.
Is there anything they can do that makes them more memorable in the scene? I only ask because they're going to be the only ones to escape.
Yeah.
So I want them to be much more memorable.
Well, I mean, I did plan on having them have a little more action here, where like Jimmy is fending off zombies, he's shooting at them, but I was like, you know what? That's all going to be directed. I don't need to write that in.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I thought if there's anything you could do that's more in character with him.
Okay. Like give him something that he yells out all the time.
Maybe like as part of their personality, like he's waiting to do something and she's like, I'm not waiting, and she goes out into where all these zombies are running around, as kind of an echo to him wanting to look out the window and her saying enough of this waiting around.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's something you want to do there, just kind of build on them a little bit. Not a big deal obviously here, but it's more, I just want them to be in the consciousness. Oh yeah, I remember those guys. They were, she was stepping all over them in the bus in the train. Remember the bus?
Yeah.
Again, this might be kind of a second draft thing because I'm not sure how memorable they're going to be when you're reading this all, in one swell. You know what I mean? So
right.
It may be okay. I just felt in the moment I was like, did we hear about them recently, or was that in your treatment of what's going to happen in this last third of the film? I think it was in the treatment. I think finally we heard them. Yeah. The
last thing we heard was they were being chased by Bud, who may or may not have had rabies.
Okay. All right. Something to think about.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not gonna. It's not a biggie. All right. So moving on to the middle of 73. to the bottom. So, a few things here. I got a little lost in the geography in the middle here with the interior of the jail continuous.
Yeah.
Where the headbanger charges out of view. My feeling was that it's out of the view of Long's vantage point, right?
Yes.
Is that what you meant by that?
Right.
Yeah, so I thought, is he like charging towards the window and now he can't see him anymore, and then boom, stuff's happening at the wall that's below him. I felt like I was kind of filling in a gap here that I think we might want to be a little bit more descriptive about. I know you're at your 4 pages, or your 4 lines, but
how about out of his view? Would that make more sense to you? Out of his view.
He charges out of Long's view.
Yeah, out of his view. From a fresh kill and notices Long. He charges out of Long's view.
Yeah,
There's more headbangers.
That would definitely do it.
Okay. I can fit his.
You said Long's.
What?
Which definitely, you said he charges out of Long's view, which that definitely works. His view, I just think is still a little bit too, because we're talking about two.
Okay, that's fine. I can fit Long's.
Okay. All right. So where we have the little section begins with between each cry.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 breaking bone and rearranging his face.
All right.
So the way I imagined this was different than how it paid off a little bit.
Okay.
So when I was imagining him just kind of flattening his face, and it's just becoming kind of this like, almost like a plane on his face, maybe like a little spot where a nose was, it's just just like straight, right?
Yeah.
But then later when Long pushes Carl against the cell, I was under the impression that it was not that his face was somewhat malleable, so he pushes him through the bars, but that his face had kind of narrowed as a result of this banging.
I mean,
and so I don't know if that was headcanon or if that was like really what was intentional.
No, I just figured it was it was believable that if a guy is charging so hard that he can demolish a wall, or at least indent the wall with his forehead, that if someone directs that energy to bars, he'd be able to get his head through, and maybe like the bone is like preventing, like a fish hook, right? It's preventing him from pulling his head back out, kind of thing.
Okay, so
here's the thing. Here, I had a cousin. I had a house. I lived in a house where
I love that this is based on reality. This is great.
Who would flatten her face against brick walls. Anyway, I had a house. I lived in a house where we had stairs that had this, this banister. Is it called a banister? Whatever. Bars, like the row of pillars, but a row of bars for like the handrail for some stairs.
Yeah.
Right. And, as children, our heads were like, they were just too narrow for our faces to fit through.
Right.
Okay. But my cousin was able to get her head through. I don't know how it works, right? No grease, nothing. Just, I got my head through, but then she couldn't get the head out.
Can't get it out.
Right? And so she was just like trapped, right? And we're kids, so we're like, oh God, what do we do? So my grandfather was able to, like, with his grandfather's strength, just, just enough to get her head out. Anyway, so I think about that for this.
Now I will too.
Okay, so
grandfather's strength. You should put that in there. With a grandfather's strength, he pulled his head out. All right, I guess here's my point on this.
All right.
If you feel like there's something that's specific that's going to happen to their heads, I think it's on you to draw what that is somewhat. Because, if you, from my understanding, when in listening to these other shows where they, they're talking about writing scripts and stuff like that, if they're able to give them some hints as to what they, whether it's set direction or, like we're talking about here, a character, if there's something physical that they can kind of glom onto, they'll take it and expand on that idea and give it a treatment. You know what I mean? If not, you're leaving it to their, completely to their, to just their own thought about, how to interpret it. So if there's something specific that you want, because again, I was thinking about that, like, oh, maybe he's like narrowing his head and restructuring it and deforming his head. I don't know exactly what it means. then I would just say it'd be worth it to put a couple things about sentences about that, or at least a brief description about it. If not, and you want to leave it to them, then cool. But it's just a cool, you mentioned earlier, like that's just direction when you're talking about God, their names.
Jimmy, Sarah.
Jimmy and Sarah. And I agree with you. Yeah, they're fighting stuff off. Of course, that's the director. They're going to figure that out. The action guy, Unit 2.
Action guy.
But if there's something that feels like it's like strong in your head, like
right.
You've got these guys described.
Yeah.
I mean, even with like the Yoo-hoos, is it kind of like, they've got, I'm kind of gathering that they've still got the really nice legs, and the nice features they're using to draw people out. But then behind that, it's like this nasty distended stomach and teeth, or the claws, what I mean? So they're hiding that whenever they're going after people. And I've got kind of a better idea of what they look like from that.
The reason I haven't gone into detail, like they don't look horrible yet, is because they don't. They look fine. They look like human beings who, I think even a human being can look evil and scary given the right situation and the right expression with the right lighting, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be later as the infection really takes over their bodies and they've been eating people and stuff like that, right? And they've been through bodily damage from clawing at things or having things smacked in their faces or whatever. Then they'll really look torn up. But right now, I don't know that I should write something that says they look fine now, but they're going to look awful later. Even to say something hinting at that, like, the Yoo-hoos who still look human or whatever, right? Because then that's going to kind of imply that, they're going to change. I think later what I'm going to do is say, especially when Mortimer gets killed, the Undertaker, I'll say the Yoo-hoos now, with distended bellies and bone exposed fingertips from fights and stuff like that. I think that will make sense. So once we get the broader picture here and put it all together, I think this part will be okay, that they weren't described in too much detail.
Okay. I think that's fair. So this, a couple of things on the end of 73, where you have the pounding on the jail door that draws along's attention. And then we are outside of Everett's room and you hear the knocking at the door.
Yeah. I
like that transition. I think that's going to be cool. And I think that can have some fun with that. Just the knocking sounds. It's kind of something you've done earlier with the headbangers banging their head. But I think stuff like that, anyone who's creative and thinking about it, like, is this a movie I'd make? It really helps them envision like how it flows. You know what I mean? So I thought that was really neat. I was a little confused with pounding on the jail door, and I know it's a small thing, but you mean like the front door of the jail, right? Not on the jail door that's actually incarcerating him?
Right. There's a door for the actual building.
Okay. I don't know if you described that a little differently, because I read it as like, well, does he mean like the cell door, the jail entrance door?
I guess maybe. I could say that the entrance, the door to the jail's entrance. Yeah, something like that.
Real small. Yeah. And same thing when we went to interior Grand Hotel Everett's room continuous, I put myself inside Everett's room. Well,
yes.
We're actually outside. We're in the hallway, aren't we?
No.
Oh, we're inside experiencing the woman knocking.
Yes.
I see. So it's all taking. So everything is taking. So this is off screen then, the frightened woman, because we're inside.
Yeah, I guess I should have said that.
I'm with you now.
Okay.
I see where you're at. Okay.
Yeah, it's meant to be
all from their vantage point.
Well, I wanted to play on the fear of the mind, right? Like, it's worse.
You can't see any of it.
To imagine what's happening to this person. So I don't want to. Obviously, I want this to be gory and grisly, and because I want there to be violence in this movie. But I think you can also be poetic and artistic about it as well. And to hear someone on the other side. Here's a perfect example. I think you saw Saving Private Ryan, right? Mm-hmm. The scene where Oppum is in the stairwell and he's listening to his friends get get killed
crazy,
because he's
yeah.
too much of a coward to go in and help.
Yeah.
It's that I wanted
stay with
to
him.
what's that?
And we stay with him.
Well, we do see them get killed as well, but
Yeah.
we also experience, what's going on from his point of view, and I wanted to capture that a little bit here.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. Actually, it's if you ever like read or watch things about editing, it's a very similar idea where the key to editing well is like during a conversation or something like that is when you want to see the person who is having the emotion. You
Right.
don't care who's necessarily delivering the dialogue.
Yeah.
They may also be that person, but you want to see where that strongest emotional value is. And here you want to stay with Maggie and Ray and
Tommy, the son.
Tommy, the kid. Yeah. I
So-
want to stay with Maggie. I want to see what's going on with Maggie, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is, this makes them. These characters have very small roles here, and they're more plot devices than anything else. But I wanted to show the desperation that they are willing. They could have just let the woman in, right? Like, what's the harm? But they are so frightened of what's going on that they are now in pure survival mode.
Right.
And for them to do something like this despicable, and then they have to listen to her being eaten alive just a few inches from their faces, that must be just a horrible experience. And so when they're screaming as these monsters are trying to get through the door, I hope that pays off. I hope I've ramped up the situation enough that them screaming doesn't seem hokey.
No, I think it's actually real effective. And I think it's even more effective, again, emotionally, in that Ray and Maggie are both on the same page.
Right.
You can't let her in.
Yeah.
As hard as that is, it's like, no, you got to make the big decision here. This is that's tough. I mean, that's a tough thing, even though it's a small character scene.
Right.
And they're not really talking or anything, but you can still feel like that's a decision that's going to haunt them. Not that they're going to live long, but
Right.
it's going to haunt them for the rest of their life. The rest of their hours or minutes. All right. So, and then when Ray braces it with his shoulder, the door, I assumed you were saying barring entry for anyone, right? That's what he was doing. Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote that just to be like super clear. It's a little thing. When we see it Stan instead of Everett, who you expect it to be, I just wrote cool. I thought that was a neat feeling because I like when it's a little averted. It wouldn't make any sense because Everett is with Long at this point anyway, but you could see actually it doesn't happen yet, right?
Doesn't happen yet, Brian.
He's going there.
Yeah.
And I like that. I just like that it's Stan.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So just a little bit of kudos for the end of 74 and the beginning of 75. I just really enjoyed the writing. I thought that was really well done. That was a little bit of like creative René getting out there, not just moving the dialogue around or along. It was just really good writing. And of course, it's got, your typical heads explode, painting the cell wall. It's just...
Well, that's the thing,
I gotta
though.
make sure I hold it up and don't look at you when I'm reading this stuff. But I'm like, René, you're funny.
So here's my thing. Part of the logic of the movie is that, you mix infected blood with regular blood. The person who gets the infected blood mixed into their blood will become infected, right?
Yeah.
So, if viscera is being painted, being sprayed onto the walls, wouldn't Long get covered in viscera as well? Just like brain matter, just and then now I have this actor for the rest of the movie with just like goop on his face.
Well, it's on the back of his head. You'll never see that because he turns when it happens. And they never show backs of actors, right? Maybe if they're running in the distance.
I don't know, Brian. I don't know how this is going to play out. I mean, if a
He
guy
luckily escapes most of the viscera.
Okay.
Leave it in, dude. It's cool.
All right.
It's cool.
At the last moment, he pulls up his bandana over his face. Ah!
All right. So on the believability scale, the next thing that happened, I was just like, really though?
Tell me.
whenever it decides just to basically shove his pistol into Carl's mouth and shoot.
That's too
I
much.
was like, that's really. I mean, it's a cool scene, but it's really risky because if Everett has any idea that getting close to these guys and getting injured, like, you know, a tooth or something like that, cutting his flesh is going to possibly infect him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's going to go that close to the guy unless he absolutely has to. So it felt more
Movie.
vindictive.
Okay. Well, it's a movie moment, man. He's the hero right now.
It is, but I was like, well, would that be a choice he'd really make? That's the only place I kind of hummed it.
Okay. Okay, I mean, I could write a little more here where we can kind of start beginning the buddy cop thing and, Everett, maybe he shoots at Carl again in the head and Carl doesn't go down. Like, it just gets caught in all this bone matter, right?
Right.
And that's when Long grabs the back of Carl's head and, like, pulls his head back, right? Exposing his mouth, right? And then that's when Everett's like, boom.
I would like it better.
You would like it better? Really?
I would. Yeah.
Okay, that can work. That, that to me still makes sense and it feels honest, and that adds a little more meaning to Long sighing when Everett pulls the manacles out. Because Long just kind of helped out. I kind of helped out, you know? Then you get the shot of Long's face through one of the manacles, you know? Manacles are all in the foreground. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
He gives him a long face.
There you go. That's what Everett says. Why the long face?
It's
the only face I have.
Oh,
Marshal.
Lord. Okay. All right, let's go over to 77.
Let's go there, Brian.
Let's do it.
I'll take you there. I don't know what song that's from. Sorry.
All right, so at the 77, we've got basically. Here we go. So she makes eye contact with Everett. He moves to help as the undead fall on her.
Yeah.
Long holds him back as the girl screams. I think you need to remind the reader that Long does this despite being manacled.
Well, he's got, the manacles are on the front, not the back.
Still.
Okay.
I think you need to, because it just really restricts your movement, right?
No,
I mean,
they're just handcuffs, right? I mean,
he's
but
like-
they're long handcuffs. No, manacles aren't that tight, bro. Not the old school manacles.
they're more like just kind of almost a rope type of thing, or
Well, I mean, they're chains, right? But they're like wide. They aren't like modern day handcuffs where you got to be like this, essentially, or like this, But they're like more like that, kind of wide.
right? Would
So
they manacle behind a back?
I don't think they did that back then.
No.
I don't think so. But I mean, I can write it in if it's an issue.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I was just thinking, I was wondering if it'd be difficult for him to do that or not, because Everett's,
And maybe I'm way off on old school manacles, but that's what I just have in my mind, I mean,
manacle protocol. You see them all like in a line with their hands, being led down the street or led down the tracks.
exactly. Got to go
Movie
research
manacles.
that.
Movie manacles. I don't know, man. Take a change. Well, I think it'd be worth it to write something in there.
That's fine. Long's manacles jangle as he holds Everett back.
Is that your action voice?
That's my I don't want to clear my throat voice.
All right, we talked about Sam when we talked about you being a jerk, Dan Browning me. That's actually the end of my notes, man.
Fantastic.
I didn't have a lot. I mean, these kind of sped by, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought about writing more. Like I thought I could do a full 10, but then I thought, well, why did it take me? I felt like I was writing a long time, right? And then I realized, oh, the reason why it felt like I was writing a lot is because I was writing a lot. A lot of this is just action. So it's all like filling up the pages. And I suspect, as I finished and sent it over to you, I suspect that because we're in the action side of this horror movie, that it's mostly going to be that.
Yeah.
And I've, for my own personal edification on writing scripts, like one of the pieces of advice I've read is that you should break up the action with a little bit of dialogue so that the reader knows what's happening without having to read the action, because readers notoriously skip the action. Right. So if you, in a previous script, I did do that. I may have to do that again.
I can't believe you killed him. Wait, what happened?
Exactly. Exactly.
How could you do that in cold blood?
Don't touch that.
Exactly.
Everett touches it.
Well, that one scene you had, remind me when it was when you wrote like 3 pages of novelization. Was it over the camp at the fort?
No, this was the gunfight.
No, it was the original gunfight.
Yeah.
I felt like this was like a really good balance, though.
Yeah.
It's not like it all going over the top. Like I felt like everything you wrote here was pretty necessary, because we want to follow the 3 kind of infected species, or whatever you want to call them, types.
Yeah.
I want to see what's going on with spitters and the courtesans, or the yoo-hoos and the headbangers.
Right.
And I kind of like dig them all, you know what I mean, for different reasons.
Yeah, I'm starting to be very fond of them, just because I can be creative in how they kill people, or just different action sequences.
Yeah, I'm not as in love with the spitters yet, because I don't think they've had their moment.
Right. Yeah.
But the other 2, I'm just like, well, I always dug the headbangers, and the yoo-hoos I think is a really strong, like, image, and I think that they're gonna have a lot of fun with them. So and everything else was really just about action that was necessary. Really move the plot along. So, no, dude, I thought this was a great balance.
Yeah, I think if we can revisit the gunfight, the reason it was written that way is because while I had the basic idea of it in my mind, I didn't have the play-by-play. And what I wrote down was more or less the like thinking out loud but writing it down, essentially. Whereas here, because I pre-wrote it, right, in the last half treatment, whatever you want to call it, I didn't need, and as you can tell, there are things that I just said, I'm going to leave it up to the imagination, because I feel comfortable that it still makes sense. Whereas the gunfight, I was like, I don't know if this works, so I'm going to write every little thing.
Yeah.
So there we are. So in fact, second draft, that gunfight may actually be whittled down even more. We'll see.
Right. Did I read the later version of that?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Because I think you gave me a couple times where it was like back to page 1 again.
Right. Oh, and one more thing. I don't know if we ever resolved this, but there was a note. I don't think we talked about it, but I read a note about Chief translating for the bandit, and the part of the translation, the Chief says, they something to the effect of they tease you with their fire water, but they never share. Instead, they make you clean, always clean, right? And I think I think you wrote a note about basically your confusion around that. Is that clear to you now after a couple of readings? That's actually meant to be a funny line.
Yeah, I don't remember why I wrote something about that now.
Okay. Because the idea of that scene is that the bandit leader is giving his last, like, kind of curse on everybody. Yeah. And he's being kind of menacing and like, I'm going to have the last laugh. And the Chief takes the opportunity to add his own little bit to the translation.
Oh, okay.
So the bandit didn't actually say this part. It's just the Chief being pissed off, like, I just want to drink. They don't share their alcohol with me.
Right.
And that's why the bandit leader like stops talking and like is suspicious about the translation. I wanted it to be a little funny scene.
Wasn't there someone else suspicious about it?
No.
Not just the bandit leader.
Just the bandit leader.
I don't know if I got that, but I thought it was Cheap's voice when he said it. Like, I mean, I thought it was him adding his personal experiences on there.
Got it. Good.
Yeah, so I think that came through. I'm trying to remember if there was something else with that I had an issue with. I might have. Sometimes when I skip a note telling you is because I feel like it's already like resolved in just our talk, so I don't cover it. I don't know. I don't think there was anything really else to that one.
All right. Well, great. Great. I just, we never resolved it for me, and I just wanted to get that out there because every episode I always want to talk to you about it, and we're so far away from it now that it's like, better get it out before get to the end.
Right. That was like a month and a half ago.
I
don't know.
Was that on the bus, Renee? I can't remember.
That was before Sally started narrating the whole thing, right?
Right. All right, Brian. Well, that was fun. I got nothing else here.
Yeah, dude, that was a quick episode. Keep writing like that, and we're gonna have, we're gonna be under an hour at some point in our lives.
Yeah.
Nah, it'll never happen.
I know. I always see like we're under an hour. Like I thought we could end this in like 30 minutes, the way we were moving, and I was like, well, you know what? I want to talk. This isn't a job for me. This is actually fun for me. I enjoy doing this. So I would have padded it out. I didn't have to tell you about my long distance relationship. That was unnecessary.
Well, there's always next time where you can tell us more about your long distance relationships and other ephemera.
Ephemera? Is that even a word? Like, is that a real noun?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Oh my!
You stumped the walking thesaurus here, man.
Send Renee to the dictionary for once in my life.
Yes, indeed.
Finally, I'm so glad it was recorded.
Oh, it's still got to be edited, Brian.
Not that I'll ever see it.
I'll keep it in.
Not that I'll ever watch it.
All right, everybody watching and listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and a subscribe, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Wait, I always forget to do this. I always forget to go big.
Go big.
There, we're big. Big faces.
Whoa.
Hello.
Whoa, hey.
Hey now. All right. Now we can say goodbye. Goodbye.
Lates.